and small, young and old. Oh Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, and with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary. When I get there, please remind I that I've been there all alone. Oh Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, that is sanctuary, pure and holy, true, I'll be שכנתי בתוכם, תעשו לי מקדש, ושכנתי בתוכם. Oh Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, and with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you.
Wow. Hello to everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello to our community meeting. I've been asked a number of times, why 6 o'clock? Because it's an unusual time for us to have a meeting. And the answer is we were hoping to be in person. And right now we would all be eating pizza and having a lovely talk, but such is not life. So we are now Zooming at 6 o'clock. So welcome to everybody. It's so good to see you. And please, may our next community meeting be in person so we can touch each other. Very shortly, I'm going to be sharing with you the state of the shul. However, because of the wild anticipation for that one word to describe our state, I will give it up now. I will give that one word that defines TBZ at this moment is, we need a drum roll. Can somebody do a drum roll? Drum. It is thriving. We are thriving, and I will be more definitive a little bit later in the program. We have a very tight agenda, so please put any questions that you have in the chat, and we will compile them and we'll get back to you at a later date. I would like to ask all the board members to please raise your hand icon so that everybody can know who you are. Go in and where it says to reactions, raise your hand so people will see who you are. And by some miracle, it's all going to come out. Okay. These are the board members, folks, these that are here right now. And I believe there'll be some more that will be coming in. And I just want to thank, and I will later thank every one of you for being here, for helping, for your commitment to TBZ and to our community. I am now going to turn our community meeting over to none other than our rabbi, who is with us tonight with, as I think you all know, Rav Claudia has managed for 2+ years to get through it all. And finally, after 2 years, she finally said, I can't do it anymore. She got COVID. So I'm going to turn it over to Rav Claudia for a few words.
Hi, everybody. Yes, I have COVID and I'm not feeling well. So I did not prepare any words of Torah for today, just to say that I wanted to be here, that I'm proud of our community, that timing works well because I have COVID after the last bar mitzvah and that we had, and after my kids finished school, which was today. So, you know, God works in mysterious and sometimes pretty good ways, because I'm not missing any weddings. I'm not missing any bar mitzvahs. I'll just stay home. Eben also has COVID. So we are here just hanging in, and our kids are fine. Sending love to all of you, just to say that our community has thrived for the last 2.5 years and for so long, and just to be excited to be doing this work with Carol and giving Yasher Koach to Carol, who this is her first community meeting leading as a president. So just excited to be with her and with all of you today. Thank you.
Rav Claudia, thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, and I know the bottom of everyone's heart. We are TBZ, you are TBZ. Okay, for the past couple of years, through the pandemic, the Strategic Planning Group has been meeting, facilitated by Fiona Epstein and Susan Diller, and the members of the Strategic Planning Group were and are Jen Klein, Jordan Morenas, Susan Bookbinder, Daniel Langenthal, Diane Balzer, Sam Mendoza, Mark Barnett, Sarah Smoliver, and Rav Claudia. For the next 20 minutes or so, we've asked Jordan Morenas to update all of us as to where the committee landed and to discuss the opportunities and challenges that lie ahead. So with that, I'm going to turn the meeting over to Jordan.
All right. So I'm going to just in a moment share my screen, go through a couple of slides that we've worked together as a committee. And I think where I want to begin, right, anytime there's a strategic planning effort, it is somewhat focused on where as a group we think and we hope we can go. The last effort, which I was not a part of, was incredibly powerful and led to some important changes for TBZ. And certainly we hope that this also, as we look out X number of years, will do the same. If I had to encapsulate the kind of essence of the conversation, it was that given what Carol said, that TBZ is thriving, that we've got enormous opportunity, that with Rav Claudia, there is a sense of optimism and momentum as we look into the future. The way I would kind of summarize our conversation was that we aspire to do more. We aspire to deepen and broaden our impact, both kind of within our walls and outside in the community. And a lot of what we did was to have discussions about what that means and where we can go. And so what I'm going to walk you through is what we discussed, a bit of a summary or a synopsis of those areas that were kind of most resonant and where people were excited to head. I'm going to hit on what is a challenge, talk a little bit about that, and where our next steps will take us. Does that make sense? Carol, makes sense to you? Okay, let me share my screen. Go into slideshow. Can I just ask this odd question? Carol, is our new executive director on? All right, I can't hear you. I'm seeing you, you're nodding. The one thing that I would just note, hey there, how are you? Nice to see you. I want to be clear that any kind of strategic plan is a joint effort between a board and leadership. And while this is coming from the board, you'll see as I finish, one of the most important things we need to do now is to make sure there is kind of an active and open conversation about this, where we go, and to make sure that that your input plays a role in this next step. So let me start here. And I actually don't want to spend too much time here because I think the next slides are a little bit more important. Not surprisingly, you get a group of Jewish people together coming from a variety of different places, all excited about where we are, and the aspirations are probably too numerous to capture. And that was part of the case. But what Fiona and Susan did in a really nice way was to kind of distill them into a set of what I would say is aspirations. And we'll probably come back to this now that I have a little bit of control over the PowerPoint. I got to rename this a little bit. This used to be called vision. I think these are more aspirations than kind of a vision statement for the shul. And I also think new staff needs to kind of take a part in that. But the aspirations were the following. And you'll see a couple of themes start to emerge. We want to be bold in our philanthropy and our financial sustainability, visionary when it comes to professional and lay leadership, innovative around youth leadership and Jewish education. There was a lot of conversation about anchoring both in tradition and being kind of radical. How do we capture what is so unique about kind of our way of doing things while not kind of losing the essence of prayer and practice in Torah? We want to be creative in our experience of spirituality and joy. I'd say joy was probably a word that was used more frequently than anything else when talking about who we are and what makes us special. Groundbreaking in fostering a diverse community, and boundary pushing in our social justice activism and service. And so then with that, the question was, could we get a little bit more concrete as to what we mean and what we may want to achieve over the coming years? And so this then led to a set of 6 pathways. And you'll see them here numbered. I'm going to read this and then try to put a little bit more meat on the bones as I do. So as you see, what we talked about was building and advancing the synagogue by focusing and giving high priority to leadership development and strengthening our fundraising endeavors. One of the things that was incredibly clear, and you'll see this as I go through, is that TBZ, as compared to almost any other synagogue, has a bit of an imbalance. Well, that is probably too strong a way of saying it. You know, the synagogues that we reviewed and we spent time with, the amount of input and guidance and ownership over lots of key things by lay leadership is incredibly strong. And in comparison, the size of our professional staff is somewhat modest. And so the questions that we were throwing around was, what do we think we need to do with respect to our professional staff? And how can we cultivate a much stronger pipeline and look out a couple of years when it comes to lay leadership? A lot of that then also has to do with fundraising. We have done a really nice job with fundraising, but there's a whole variety of things we believe we probably could do over the next couple of years to strengthen that. Those two are somewhat foundational, leadership and fundraising, which would allow us to do much more around our youth and music and prayer. Now, much more would be a bit of an overstatement on music and prayer. I think the way we talked about music and prayer was we're very happy with where we are. It makes us unique. It is an area where there's incredible pride. And the question was, how do we sustain that? How does it not all fall on 1 or 2 people? How do we kind of build in the capacity to try new things and make sure that we have confidence in our ability to continue to do what we're doing over the next couple of years? And when it comes to youth, there was a feeling that there was more that we could be doing, in particular, planning more and looking out over the next couple of years to think, where else may we go? And how do we involve young people in the direction that we set? And then finally, what you see at the bottom, deepening and expanding our welcoming and inclusion of all Jewish people, and weaving of social justice activism and service into our prayer, learning, and action. As anyone who's been around TBZ for years knows, there is a deep commitment to both diversity, inclusion, belonging, as well as social justice activism and service. We've engaged and embarked on a pretty deep effort around our own reflection on diversity and how we can continue to make TBZ even more welcoming for more and different types of people. And that's an effort that's happening now and requires us then to take some of those learnings and think where we go. But it's also about kind of our state of mind. How do we make decisions? How do we show up in ways that make TBZ a place that all feel welcome? And then when it comes to social justice activism and service, a lot of the conversation was about the sustainability of that work. We are engaged in an enormous number of things. I think there's a real pride in it, but a lot of that work happens because of volunteers, which on one hand is terrific, but there's probably a way with a little bit more infrastructure that we can deepen that, take a little bit of the responsibility off of volunteers, and ensure that there's a way to do this sustainably. So what you see in bold were kind of what we call the 6 pathways. I am not seeing in the chat. So Carol, if there are any questions that come in through the chat, please read them and we can kind of either take them as we go or toward the end. So all of that is well and good. It's not all that hard to bring a group of people together and dream and to develop kind of a sense of where we'd want to go. You know, any good idea comes with a set of challenges as well. And we were able to really distill what we thought was a challenge kind of into what you see here. And that is that both the Strategic Planning Committee and the board, as we talked and discussed, we have a very common perspective. And that's where I started. We aspire to do more. We're ambitious. We follow really the kind of leadership that Rev. Claudia has established and want to go further. But our professional staff size is quite modest for the work we have to do even right now. And if we want to get to any of those pathways, we are not well positioned to do so. Another way of saying that is, you know, our eyes are bigger than our stomachs. Our aspirations far outpace our capacity to get the work done. One of the things that was probably most instructive was that in my small committee, which included Daniel and Jen Klein, we spoke to 4 other shuls and organizations. And when you did a comparison to the number of family units to the number of full-time staff, you come away with 2 realizations. One was, oh my goodness, how does our staff do what they do? Most of the other synagogues we talked to had a ratio, because they weren't all the same number of family units, just that were so far greater than where we are. And it's not that we aspire to match that. That's not us. We have a different demographic. We have a different kind of essence to who we are. But there's no question that we are incredibly light on the number of professional staff we have. And so, you know, ultimately, where we came out was that we simply cannot set and achieve additional goals and ensure the sustainability of volunteer leaders without additional staff. I think people know this, whether it's Sarah prior or Carol now or the rest of the board. The number of hours that it takes to help in the governance and the leadership of the work is significant. And that's a real barrier to both going after new things, but also bringing other people on. And so the question is, how do we rationalize that a little bit more? So just to put this in a little bit more perspective, we don't need to go through all of this, but you see the pathways there on the left. And our perspective was that between infrastructure and investment, and by infrastructure, I mean more kind of time and systems investment, what things cost. There's a kind of pretty strong belief that there are 1 to 2 new roles that are needed over the next 1 to 2 years, starting modestly with 1. We don't know yet what it would kind of focus on. That will be a conversation going forward. That we need additional support around work on youth for Rav Tiferet, additional allocation of support for social justice activism and service. And then a really important thing, and I'd say this probably came across, I don't know if Jen Klein is on the call as well, this came across in all the calls that we had, was that if we don't take a multi-year view and create both the systems with respect to kind of a database, as well as additional staff time focused on how we bring in additional and create pathways for lay leadership, we will be at the same place in a couple of years. We have to systematize that in a very different way, and that costs money. And so to kind of summarize a little bit where we are in our next steps, first, as I said, we need to collaborate with staff now, and we're lucky to have a new executive director joining us at this time. I think the timing is great, so that we can think about our priorities. If we were bringing on another FTE, would that be focused on leadership and member development? Would it be on fundraising? Would it be a combination? I think that's something to discuss. There's a big question about what this community can do with respect to fundraising. And so we are going to embark on a pretty kind of lightweight analysis of the fundraising kind of ceiling. Are we at it? Is there kind of more? I think our hypothesis is that we can do more. If we can't, then there's a question about whether we can bring on new staff, because each, God bless you, each incremental staff role, just if you want to use a round number between kind of salary and benefits, is another $100,000. And for I think our fundraising total is somewhere in the neighborhood of $300,000, just rounding it. To bring on 2 staff is a massive increase in the amount of fundraising we have to do. So we have to know what's possible here. And then once we have all that, then the board has to discuss whether we think it's possible. I believe it is, but I'm also probably the newest board member, so I'm naive at this point. I have a pretty strong feeling that there is, as a thriving community in Shul, more capacity for fundraising, more opportunities, then the ability to bring on additional staff. That becomes a little bit self-reinforcing. It allows us to cultivate more leadership. It allows us to put more into marketing and fundraising, but we'll see. And so that's the work ahead of us as we go forward. That's all I have.
Well, Jordan, thank you very much. And I think if anybody wants to get copies, Jordan, of what it is you're presenting, that would be pretty easy to do. I do want to point something out that in the chat that Sue Khan mentioned, that what Jordan is talking about is pretty in line with our mission statement. And for those of you that don't have the mission statement in mind, it's in the chat. That then a group of, we've worked really hard on this, but keep this in mind. TBZ is an independent, inclusive Jewish congregation with members of all ages who are committed to each other, to joyful participatory worship, meaningful Jewish learning, spiritual growth, and acts of social justice. We nurture a love for Judaism, for Jewish learning, ritual, and prayer, to deepen our commitment to justice and compassion, and to help each and other live lives of meaning and purpose. And I think that that's been our mission statement for a while. And I think what Jordan is talking about, the aspirations that the committee talked about and how to get there, is definitely in line with that. And so if anyone has any questions that they want to ask, put it in the chat. We'll make sure to get back to you. So I think that's, and anything more? Thank you, Jordan. Okay, we can go back. Hi, all right, we're back. We are now going to go into breakout rooms. And there'll be a board member in each of the breakout rooms. And the question that we're asking is, and this will be in the chat, what about this vision for TBZ excites you the most? And also, how can you connect to it? How do you feel that you can make yourself part of it, that you can belong to it? And that will be in the chat. And Ralph Claudia, in her genius, will now put us into breakout rooms.
We are all back.
Okay, we are all back. Well, I know my group that I was in had a lovely conversation. If the board people who were in the groups could just put in the chat some highlights from your group, that would be very helpful. If you can do it now. Well, let's make sure, I'm going to want to make sure that we find out from people what were the things that you heard. I know I will just say, because I can say that in my group, there was a lot of excitement about the aspirations and acknowledgement, the need to develop more staff capacity to support all the wonderful work that we're doing. Okay, it is now my distinct pleasure to introduce to the TBZ community, Benjamin Marron. Although Marron, I keep wanting to call you Benjamin Marron. Somehow the Hebrew, I can't get the English.
I'm fine with the Hebrew.
I am delighted to introduce Benjamin. He's been with us 2 days. I've gotten to know Benjamin. He's got the skills, he's got the capacity, and he is a mensch. So with that, rather than my telling you about Benjamin, I'm going to ask Benjamin to tell us about himself. Benjamin.
Thanks, Carol. It's really great to see all your faces. I'm excited to be joining the TBZ community, and at the same time that everyone is embracing and starting to think about and work with this new strategic goals that Jordan spoke about earlier. It's a really great time to be joining the community. A bit about myself. I've worked in the Jewish community for over 20 years. I have experience helping new nonprofits grow and learn relevant skills to grow. I've previously served as executive director of a large congregation in the area. My family and I live in Milton. My partner is Stephanie. She's also a religious professional. And our kids are Anna and Elena, and I'm sure you'll meet all of them at services at some point. 2 little redheads running around, they're hard to miss. Yeah, I'm excited to get to know all of you off the computer as well as COVID permits. And thank you for welcoming me to the community.
Yes, and I would urge, yes, we're so glad you're here, Benjamin. And I urge you, if you're in the TBZ neighborhood, come in and say hello and introduce yourself in person. It's just so, we had such visions of this community meeting being together. I mean, I was seeing it, and it will happen, but I guess not now. Benjamin, thank you. And I do want to take a minute just to thank Susan Diller. I see you, Susan. Susan Diller, how amazing you've been, especially getting us through COVID and getting us on professional footing, creating systems. And I would like to ask Sarah Smoliver to say a few words about you, Susan, because I've known you, but I've been working with you for 6 months. Sarah has been working with you far longer. And I have loved every minute working with you, as you know. I once said to somebody, you know, Susan is the sort of person that when I ran an organization, if I could hire her, I would have hired her just like that. So I'm going to ask Sarah. Sarah, say a few words.
Yes. So thank you. And before I say kind things about Susan, I do want to just thank the search committee who brought us Benjamin. Rini Rudnick was my partner as co-chair, and she is just incredible to work with. She was on the search committee that brought us Rav Tiferet. So she's batting 1,000, and it was really wonderful to partner with her. And the other people on that committee were Edith Klein, Len Fishman, Samuel Engel, Steve Lewis, Sue Kahn, Rav Tiferet, and Rav Claudia. And one of the things I loved about this committee was that we had some people involved who really hadn't been involved on committees before, and they really enjoyed themselves and were able to really participate in building the future. And I encourage people to think about involvement in shul life in that way. So now we can thank Susan for her service with us. I mean, Susan joined us. I remember I did this weird thing. I had a Zoom board meeting the summer of 2019. It was like, can we do this on Zoom? That seems strange, but I was on the Cape and we had an offer to make. And so we did a Zoom board meeting. It was kind of weird. How times have changed. And at that point, we hired Susan, and we thought the biggest thing she was going to have to deal with was jumping right into high holiday planning without knowing anything about it. She had not worked in a synagogue before, and she managed that and did that well as she learned the steep learning curve of who our congregation was, who all the players are, how we operate, and was bringing a really calm, curious, steady presence, just a wonderful sounding board for all of us that worked with her, and able to ask really great questions to help us get to answers. That's, I think, one of her biggest skills is this what you're trying to get to? How do you want to get there? And that's why she was such a wonderful co-facilitator for our strategic visioning. And then who knew? COVID hit, and everyone had to find how they were going to get through that. And Susan, with Rav Claudia, guided us through that. She managed to do all the creative thinking, the logistics, with such calm again. And as everyone knows, we were all managing our own stuff as we were trying to do the work that we were doing in the world. And Susan really was able to guide us through that with such a steady hand. And then work really hard on our strategic planning and helping us to get to where we were, what you just heard about today. She's been a good friend to all of us in leadership, and her dog Roxy has been a good pet to have in the building most of the time. And I just know that all the staff was just wonderful, for all the volunteer leaders and the professionals to work side by side with Susan. And we will miss you, and we know you won't go far, and we'll get to see you on stage and screen as you develop more into that part of you. And thank you for helping to make the transition to Benjamin so smooth. And I know that you'll be there for any questions that he has. And just thank you on behalf of our entire community.
Yes, thank you, Sarah. And what I wanted to say before I introduced Sarah is to thank Sarah and to thank Rini Rudnick and her wonderful committee for sticking with it and for helping us get to where we got, hiring Benjamin, and which was wonderful. And I'm so glad we got there, and it was a work of love. So I'm now going to ask Susan, would you like to say a few words?
Yeah, I'd very much like to say how it's been truly my honor and my privilege to work with the TBZ community, to work with Rav Claudia and Rav Tiferet particularly. It's been life-changing, really, for me. In so many ways that I've absorbed so much about what it means to create intentional communities, to be a part of those communities, and to care so deeply about people, and to embrace people, and so many different kinds of people with giant arms. So I want to thank really the entire TBZ community for all that you do for this community and the ways that you bring it to you aspire and create the community you want to be. It's inspirational. So thank you.
And thank you, Susan. We will miss you. But you're not far. Susan,
Nope.
Susan will be with us for the rest of the month, helping us, Benjamin, transition and helping us get used to her not being here. So we will be seeing Susan.
I want to, Carol, jump in and share a secret.
Yes.
In a recorded Zoom, which is that, you know how I write every Friday my Shabbat Nekavla. Susan is my editor. She has been editing my writings for the last 3 years. We will continue doing that. And I just want to say that her editing skills and her capacity to transform my words to be beyond the potential of what I'm thinking. She in a matter of 2 or 3 weeks kind of learned my mind, learned my language, learned what I was trying to say, and became a fantastic editor of my words. So I just wanted to say that she has done so many things. And for us, it's been a little Friday morning chavruta where I write my text and then I send it and she edits and she asks questions. So we have been, in a way, learning Torah every Friday by writing the Shabbat Nekavla, and it's been great fun.
It's true.
I have asked Susan to continue that for a while, so it's good. You'll continue to enjoy her editing of my Shabbat Nekavla. Though not tomorrow, Rav Tiferet will write for tomorrow because I'm not able to write tomorrow.
Well,
thank you.
That is a great secret, Rav Claudia. We won't tell anyone. Okay, state of the shul. My turn. I am going to give you the state of the shul in just a few minutes. I think, though, that the slideshow that you saw at the beginning can really visually gives you the state of the shul. With Rav Claudia's leadership, through Reb Moshe's wisdom, with Rav Tiferet's programming, with our incredible professional staff, and the work of many, many of you, I can say with complete confidence that the state of TBZ, in a word, is indeed thriving. In a few minutes, I'm going to ask the various vice presidents of the board to summarize a little bit more specifically their areas. And I'm just going to give a few highlights. TBZ is back. We're back in many multi-access ways, in person, in Zoom, hybrid. And if I fail to mention something important to you, please put it in the chat. It seems so long ago, but it wasn't. A spiritually wonderful high holiday season. Remember Neela in the park? That was pretty wonderful. And we had a joyous Hanukkah celebration. From the Purim spiel that included, for the first time in a couple of years, Hamantaschen baking, to the wonderful healing power of music concert, our very, very successful fundraiser. We rose up and we celebrated the healers of the community. We retreated on the Cape, spending time in community. We meditated. We helped each other with loving kindness. We had many, many Kiddush talks, learning from each other. Close to 60 TBZers participated and continue to participate in the difficult work of facing and acknowledging racism in our own lives and in the world. We had 15 joy-filled bar mitzvah celebrations, including Gary Cohen's, who relived his bar mitzvah. Through Purim Basket fundraiser, we supported food insecurity in our local community through Yad Chesed. We had a wonderful and inspiring women's retreat. Beit Rabban is going strong with 44 students. Thank you, Rav Tiferet. And on the other end of our generational spectrum, wise aging continues to flourish thanks to Reb Moshe and Anne. We had programs for people of all ages. We have a beautiful new Bima cover. And as you're going to learn through this difficult time, we have grown our membership. There are many, many people to thank, and I couldn't possibly acknowledge every person, but you know who you are. And if there's someone that you would like to thank that I don't mention, please put it in the chat. First, I want to personally thank the board members, some of whom you've met. I want to thank you all for your commitment and for being who you are. We have an incredible board. It truly is intergenerational. And I feel so so blessed actually to be in the position that I'm in, and I thank you. I want to thank Sue Kahn and Leah Hager-Cohen for leading our DEI effort, and the members of the DEI committee, Myron Miller, Barry Keller, Sam Mendoza, David Vitale Wolf, Rav Tiferet, and Rav Claudia. This work is continuing and will continue. Sarah Smoliver, I mentioned, and Rini for chairing our very successful search committee. I want to mention, I don't know if Amy's here, but Amy Bullock for making sure that we care about each other, not just in word, but that we care about each other in deed. Ariadne Valsamis, Cindy Jo Gross, Patricia Lauderman for leading our wonderful community retreat. And finally, our lovely new Bima cover made by Beverly Sky and her Bimmers. They call themselves Bimmers. Susan Schnorr, Beth Harris, Merrill Finkel, Lauren Garlick, and Naomi Ribner. There are lots more to thank, but those are the ones that I've been doing this since January, and I'm sure there are lots more. So if you have somebody that you want to particularly thank, please put it in the chat. I hope that in the breakout rooms, you were able to reflect on how you can connect to TBZ in the next year, how you can belong. And my hope is that every single one of you finds your special way to belong. In my little breakout room, Bev was saying to me, she was in her car. I don't know if she still is, but she was in her car and she was saying she wants to belong, she wants to volunteer. And our job is to make sure that we find a place for Bev to belong and to volunteer. Okay, that's my spiel. I now am delighted to introduce the vice presidents of the board. The way we operate, some of you may not know, we have a board, we have at-large members, and then we have what we call vice presidents. We have a treasurer, who's David Nyman. We have somebody who's responsible for membership, Jen Klein. She can't be here tonight, but she does have a video. Larry Krause, who's our VP of Spiritual Life, and who's assumed responsibility for re-entry. How that happened, I'm not sure. Susan Bookbinder is VP of Tikkun Olam, and Sarah Fendrick, VP of Development. So I'm going to ask each of them to talk very, very briefly, except for David, who we're giving 10 minutes to David because he is giving the treasurer's report. And it's important for everyone here to understand where we are financially, where we're going to be, what's working, and to know where our money is coming from and where our money is going. So I'm going to turn the meeting over to David.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Carol. I'm going to share the screen. I believe this is the screen. I have too many windows open. I have to say that because we're not in person and having pizza together, when dinner's over, I'm going to go get pizza. So okay, I'm assuming you can see the screen here. It says TBZ financial picture. Sounds good. Okay, so anyway, first of all, if there are any questions about what I present here, please put questions in the chat. We're not going to answer them right now, but we will get back to you afterwards because this being recorded. We'll have a list of those questions to get back to you later. So our fiscal year goes from July 1st to June 30th. So we're closing up on the end of the fiscal year in just a couple of weeks. And I want to take a look at the past year. You can see there's some primary bullet points here. A year ago, the Finance Committee, and with the approval of the board, we approved a deficit budget of about $60,000. Part of it was due to we were both live, we were hybrid, we were live, and we had remote offerings on Zoom. We had security costs for the live events. We had remote costs for running on Zoom. Yet, with great thanks to our community, increase in membership, being conservative in spending wherever we could, we were actually able to close the gap. We closed it without a deficit budget, which is just wonderful. Another highlight of this past year, we were able to pay off the outstanding Lador Vador loan. This is the loan that we took out to pay for the third floor renovations, for the replacement of better front doors, the sanctuary windows, other security fixes. So that actually saved a lot of expenses. There were annual auditing fees required by the bank. There was annual interest due. So by retiring that debt, we, in an ongoing way, are saving those expenses. Thanks to Susan Diller, it's been great working with Susan these past couple of years. We've professionalized, well, really Susan has professionalized our back office processes. We're working with better bookkeeping and accounting to understand our income and our expenses. So that's really a reflection on this past year. We came out better than we expected. We expected a deficit and we didn't. Okay, so let's look at the coming budget, which starts on July 1st. And we have a pie chart here. Where does our money come from? And most of our income comes from annual dues. You can see that's 56%. That's followed by other donations, the High Holiday Appeal and the Spring Fundraiser are those primary events. So those three items really account for about 3/4 of our operating revenue. But primarily it's the annual dues that meet a majority of our budget. And annually, it costs about $1.1 million to run the show. So now adding to this, our income, our dues, we have had the dues constant for 3 years now. We have not raised the dues since the onset of the pandemic. But solvency is an important issue for an organization. So the Finance Committee has recommended and the board has approved a dues increase for the coming year. It's the first time in 3 years. And this increase is based on expected increases in expenses. It's based on expected inflation, as I'm sure most of you have heard that we have inflation. Inflation is expected. Fortunately, this approved budget for the coming year is a balanced budget. So we are not anticipating a deficit. Now, as a community, we want to be welcoming to everyone, those of us who can afford full dues and those who cannot. We have an abatement policy. I'll go on to the next page here. So the increase that we're having in dues that we voted on is slightly less than 4%. So for single person households, this is only an increase of $55 a year. And for 2 or more person households, family households, I left off a 0, I'm sorry. It's $110 increase for the year. And this is the first increase in 3 years. Now, as far as making dues affordable for everyone, Susan, along with the bookkeeper, estimated based on past years that we charge about almost $800,000 in dues, but we expect abatements of about $166,000. Now, the abatement policy is managed in confidence by the executive director for the sake of individual privacy. Members of the community, including the board, have no knowledge of individual abatements. So for those who need to, every year, members who need to can apply for an abatement. So where does the money go, right? Which brings us into the next chart. So the major bulk of the expenses in the year go for those who take care of us, those who keep TBZ running. It includes the rabbinic staff, administrative staff, teachers, tutors, and a few consultants. And this includes salaries and benefits. And for the most part, these are fixed costs. These are set for the year. There really isn't much adjustment that can be done on these. So you can see the blue and the orange here are our staff, our support staff. and rabbis. And then there are all these other pie chart there are expenses in just administrative expenses. There's community programming, repairs. We have to set aside money every year for major capital expenses, because every so often we need to replace air conditioners, heating systems, roofs. So part of the budget is actually setting aside expenses for that. So that is pretty much my report on expenses and the budget.
Okay, David, thank you. Thank you very much. And again, if people have questions, please put them in the chat. I'm sure you've got some questions on this. If you have them, put them in the chat. We will be we'll get back to you to each and every question. And okay, let me go on with the VPs. That was David, who's our treasurer. Next, Jen Klein, who's our VP of membership. If we could do her video.
Hi all, my name is Jen Klein. I am the membership vice president here at TBZ. I'm sorry that I couldn't be with you in person tonight. It is my daughter's final performance for a theater program, and so I had to be there. I am excited to get to share with you, though, that since our last community meeting in December, we have 11 new member units, family units, which is 18 new people, which is incredible growth for our community. And we're so excited to have all of these new people with us. For those of you who are here tonight and our new members, please put your name in the chat. For everyone else, please welcome all of our new members. If you see people that you don't recognize around the building, please reach out, welcome them, make sure that everybody is feeling comfortable in our community. And as membership vice president, if anybody has concerns, are struggling to connect, are looking for resources, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. I am happy to be that resource, that friendly face, and try and make sure that your entry into TBZ is smooth and happy. So have a lovely evening, everybody, and I hope to see everybody in person soon. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Jen. I too think that it's quite incredible during these really difficult times. We have increased our membership, and it's wonderful. Okay, Larry Krause, VP of Spiritual Life and Reentry. Larry.
Thank you, Carol. Spiritual Life is doing great as far as I know. Tell me if I'm wrong. As I say, we have services every Shabbos. Woo! So thank you for everybody participating in everything we do spiritually. We can't have spirit without all of you. I will note that if you want to read Torah, we have plenty of Torah to read. If you have the capacity to pitch in one Shabbos every week, every month, every 2 months to usher or to do bima duty, these are great ways for you to participate in welcoming people into our synagogue and creating the culture that we have and we love. It's only a culture with each one of us. So please participate. There's more to do. On reentry, we're actually, we're getting there. This is what a pandemic, but the building is safe. The protocols we have in place are the right ones. The fans are great. So we have safe space, and it's safe to be in the building. We check the numbers every day. The wastewater numbers are going down. The case numbers are stable, but the infection rate is going down. So eventually we'll get back to a place where we can be mask optional. Right now we're mask required. So stay safe, get vaccinated, and stay home when you're sick, come when you're not.
Okay, Larry, thank you. And moving on to our VP for Tikkun Olam, Susan Bookbinder.
Hello, everybody. As you all know, trying to help make a better world, Tikkun Olam, is a very big part of our TBZ community life. So I want to tell you some of the activities that have gone on this year and invite you to join us in any way that works for you. We work in partnership with other organizations. We do hands-on work, organizing across economic, racial, religious lines for the greater good. We work sometimes within our own community. And you'll see there's a place for everybody to do what feels right for you. We have a Defending Democracy group that right now has been postcarding to voters in North Carolina to get out the vote. The Dayenu Circle formed recently to work on fighting climate change. The Gun Violence Prevention Action Group gets folks out for demonstrations, funding, education, contacting our government representatives, et cetera. Our GBIO team and everyone that shows up for all of these activities works on three main concerns right now. Housing actions in Boston and in Brookline, re-entry of prisoners back into society, and mental health issues. As members of NBARC, the Newton-Brookline Asylum Resettlement Committee, we at TBZ help in the resettlement of refugees and immigrants in our communities. For example, right now, many TBZ members are helping an Afghan family of 2 young parents and their 4 little children with housing, acculturation, work, and learning English. The TBZ literacy tutors partner with the Winship School in Brighton, working one-to-one with kindergartners through 3rd graders who need help and support in reading. We are one of 65 Jewish organizations that regularly make donations of kosher food to Family Table, which feeds over 1,000 individuals and families in need. So I just want to leave it with you that already hundreds of TBZ members devote time to these amazing number of activities. And depending on your interests and the time you have, you're invited to join us in this sacred work. Thank you very much.
Susan, thank you. And I'm going to introduce Sarah Fendrick, who chairs our development committee. But before I do, I want to thank Sarah Fendrick and Beth Harris, who I think is here. If she's not, I want to thank Beth Harris for chairing our concert fundraiser. And I want to acknowledge also Beth Harris's editing and putting together our Kolenu, which takes a lot of work, and she does a fabulous job. And I just want to acknowledge that for Beth. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Sarah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah Fendrick. I'm the VP of Development. And keeping with the theme of thriving, we are thriving. We've asked a lot of you this year, and you have responded really generously. Thank you very much. The annual appeal this year brought in $172,282. Our spring fundraiser has raised $57,279. So that's a total of $230,000 that we have all raised for TBZ. And as it flows into TBZ, it flows back out into our community. So as we feed TBZ, TBZ nourishes us. We also have very strong numbers with general giving this year, almost $90,000 that has been given through onegs, kiddishes, honors, yard sites. And so the total giving has been about $320,000. And that giving is about 29% of the total amount that that we need to help sustain TBZ. So thank you very much. Thank you, each of you, for giving so generously and for helping TBZ be able to do the kinds of things that we love to do. All the programs that you've heard about, all the things that we experienced through this year is because you help support TBZ. So thank you.
Okay, Sarah, thank you very much. And thank you all the VPs and the board, and thank all of you. And Rav, Claudia tells me that I'm one of the few people sometimes that actually finishes meetings on time or early. And this just may be one that we do. But I'm going to turn the meeting back to Rav Claudia, who has a little exercise for us. And then we will hear some music.
Yeah, give me a second because Ariel is here, so I need to wear a mask when Ariel is around me. Okay, because Ariel is actually still, she's still negative, so we're trying to keep it that way. Ariel, you want to say hello to TBZ? No, okay. So just to say, yeah, I have admired Carol finishing meetings ahead of time, so we will keep it that way. That's an amazing thing that only Carol has been able to do that at TBZ so far that I know. So we're going to finish without, this is not a criticism to all the past presidents, not at all. I'm seeing Sue and Sarah. So we're going to end with a little thing. We're going to ask each of you, all of you, to use the chat to write one word. If you must to write 2 or 3, that's okay, but not a full sentence. One word in the chat that says, what does TBZ mean to you? What does TBZ mean to you? Just write in the chat and we will collect all these words. We want to get all these words from you and we will do something creative with it. So great, it's good to see them coming. I'm going to oh, this is so beautiful. Home, community, spirit, spiritual home, community, intentional community, chesed, connection, everything. I love that. Music and joy, community, home, blessed community. This I won't read them out, but keep them coming, keep them coming. This is so beautiful. And we are going, oh, Ariel is out. So I will keep coming. We will take all these words and we will do something with it and we will share it with all of you. So with that, we want to thank you all for being here. Thank Carol again for running a fantastic meeting. Thank all the board members. Thank and say farewell to Susan Diller, who has been amazing. Welcome, Benjamin. Welcome all of you. And Susan will share one more time the slideshow we shared at the beginning in case you came late or you only saw parts, or if you saw it and you want to say it again. And after that, we will end the Zoom meeting. Thank you all for being here. I am going to go and rest. I'm not going to be there around. I'm not answering too many emails. Thank you for all your support and your love. And I'm grateful for being part of it.
Refuah shlema.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Okay, Susan, give it away.
Oh Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, and with thanksgiving I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Oh Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, and with thanksgiving I'll be a living sanctuary for you. Oh Lord, you know that we need your presence to inspire us and uphold the foundation of every nation, big and small, young and old. Oh Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, and with thanksgiving
her and walk beside her to a land of grace and soul. When I get there, please remind her that I've been there all alone.
Oh Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. I'll be a living sanctuary for you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
תעשו לי מקדש ושכנתי בתוכם. תעשו לי מקדש ושכנתי בתוכם.
Oh Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true. And with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you.
Thank you all for being here. Have a good night, everybody. Laila Tov. Bye-bye.
Laila Tov.